looking at the
do we have to,
bookstore tomorrow for the thing.
considering we're 2 minutes away from the actual
Just
meeting?
wait it.
Yeah, I
Just
thought
test
you
it
wanted
just
to
to
go
be
to
sure.
the tea room.
that's
The
fine.
married
Should
one
be
would go to the tea room.
live. Let me go.
Yeah, I didn't mention
Test.
Lavender to her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's closer and, okay.
Now we're gonna go straight down.
Oh, I know where I'm going. I know where I'm going. Do you want to go to the tea room tomorrow?
Oh. Okay, well, let me check with Don. We got somebody coming to
Is,
house. I said, don't worry, what time it's coming up.
Yeah, I'm texting right now.
Yes, I would like
Okay,
to.
so, please.
Sorry.
Oh, here comes Stan.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Lois. Hi. When are you leaving? Saturday. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh. I've been meaning to call you to tell you how nice the yard looks.
Oh, yes.
It's lovely.
Well, thank you. You did your part. That's good.
Yeah, it looks good. Can you just get it done?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Oh, I didn't sign in. Yeah. Oh, when we sign
I
in.
heard every Sunday when we go in.
In the attic? Oh, my gosh.
I heard it's great up there, so.
Oh, no. How the heck did they get in?
I don't know, we haven't found that part. Could be.
Yeah, can you hear me? How does that work for you?
Didn't you have somebody go
Testing.
around and look for any openings?
Testing?
Well, yeah, they look.
Can you hear me?
Oh, I can.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Okay.
You know,
The trap's
Is that good?
Yeah,
You guys
well,
try
I don't
yourself,
know.
or-
I mean, no, he's gonna put the traps out, but we're gonna see if I'm not figure out how to get in.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the big thing.
And I'm
is
like,
how are they getting in?
Oh,
I know.
The rats.
I'm coming up.
They probably know their way in.
Oh, good.
They probably know their way in, they each way.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, that's all it is part
Yeah.
for it, yeah, that's the cheapest one they could find. I don't know why. None of the houses are built well, except for that
Well, the thing was,
supplementation.
what Chuck told me, Charles told me years ago, he said, the problem was that they didn't extend the roof the 2 inches. That should have been done. We would never have done those houses.
Yeah, but it's still not quality wood.
It's not, it's not.
Welcome. Have you heard
Hello.
anything?
Hello.
How are you? Good. Yeah, I brought you back something from DC.
Oh, thank you.
But they were talking about another event.
All right, so, Raid will be calling in on this one.
Yeah,
So-
but WhatsApp and blow it up.
What was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
When the car we're both doing it.
yeah, I figured I only wanted to make sure you were still getting close. But, I got your wrenches too, I told her.
Last time they did.
I still need to email you those forms and.
Yeah, we can cover that.
There's one that has, I think, a title on it.
Yeah, he is the director. Yeah.
I'll get this back. I forgot to ask you last time.
Yeah, we can cover it all, not a big.
Yes.
Okay.
So you're good. Okay. Great. Because I think there was a meeting today. But it was already in process. Right. But so I'm hoping that they had a board meeting today. Yeah. So I'm hoping that maybe it's approved. I'm hoping, yeah, because we still have to tighten up a little bit in the ARB to make sure that they get to the right committee. Yeah, and we're probably gonna have some changes there too, so we probably need to talk about all that, so, yeah, and how that's gonna go. Okay, we can talk about it during the whatever. Yeah, so.
Hey, Ray.
Yeah, so
Hey,
there's.
so, we're gonna get started here in a minute, so I'll put
But
you
it
on
would be
speaker,
nice
if you want.
if
All right.
Sure. You know, Right. it was received. Yeah. And it was anything, you know what I'm saying, so. And that's what I was just looking for, if I could just go somewhere.
We'll
You
get
know.
started here. So,
Oh, you know what, I used to carry a little speaker in here.
Yes.
I have to start
You're gonna,
carrying it.
Kathy, you're gonna sign 2 of these.
Okay.
And place it right
Okay.
as VP.
Up in the front there. Oh, is that right?
Where are you?
I don't know why.
All right, so we'll just, call me, you get free. So, all right, we'll call the meeting to order. It's 6:34 p.m. Raid got disconnected from me, so we'll wait for him to call back in. Basically, just as a heads up, we are streaming live on YouTube for everyone. In terms of the meeting agenda for the evening, we have a quorum of the directors here in person. We'll wait to see if Ray rings back on this, and we can have a full house. Proof of notice. The sign has been out at the exit gate for a while, as well as the website updated with this information. Reading and disposal of the minutes. We took what Maria had sent over. I didn't see any issues with it. I don't know if anyone saw any corrections necessary to that. Okay. So if that's the case, I'll make the motion to dispose of reading of the prior meeting minutes and accept as sent by Maria earlier today. Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So we'll move into the status reports here, go through those. Continuing business, we've got the bylaw amendment and policies to go through. Have one discussion on this LED exit gate sign, and the new business, we've got a handful of items there to get through. So plenty of material to kind of cover here. In terms of status reports, going into the monthly results, a lot of red this month, especially at the income level. You can see we, as we had talked about and approved a couple months back, the assessment credit for the Avalon homeowners went through, was applied, so that basically is a $26,226 deduction or contra income revenue account, so that's the driver there. G&A, you can see there we had $1,600 of miscellaneous expenses that got put into that account incorrectly. They will be actually get confirmation from Bernadette. They will be reclassed to the proper reserve account, and that'll show up in next month's financials. And then from there, there's just $753 unfavorable for legal and $381 favorable for management fees. Grounds, that was another item I think you saw in the email that I had that was going to be, that needed to be a reserve because we had approved it as a reserve expense, so that's going to take care of, add that money back into that. That's $1,960. And then, everything else, kind of was where it was on that. I mean, $200, $300 here and there. But overall, we were fine for the grounds area. Gatehouse, you see the timing on the security services and the police patrol, and they haven't had any maintenance or repair necessary up there. Utilities for the month, irrigation was better this month. It was only $900 unfavorable, offset by some of the about almost $190 for electric. Reserve expenses pretty much the same, and then total expenses, if you look at it, was $1,500 unfavorable. But if you look at what we're going to have reclassified in May, that really would have been a $1,600 favorable expense performance on a net basis after those adjustments on there. So. Just to point out another component here, all the negatives you see on a percentage basis, that's based upon the change obviously in the budget. Now the budget has been updated for the revenue reduction, and then obviously with that credit you don't have a whole heck of a lot of income for the month because we took that all as one shot. Year to date, you can see, from overall unfavorable, that $26,000 has been offset by, you have late fee income and some, interest on delinquent accounts and whatnot. G&A, $1,500 in management fees. Legal is $700 unfavorable. Social, $1,000 favorable. And it's just a little bit all, here and there. And then the reclass of miscellaneous. We've got two other, reclasses that are coming there. So that'll show up in May. From a grounds perspective, you've got $5,000 that was, what's it called, in the routine infrastructure and maintenance account. Overall, we're almost at $1,100 favorable for the traditional grounds maintenance account, $670 in annuals, $670 in wall repairs. I mean, those are the peanut butter straight line allocations we do, so they show up like that. Gatehouse overall, police patrol is $822. Camera maintenance is $333, and then miscellaneous is $167 overall on that. Utilities, so you see we're at 1757 unfavorable irrigation, almost 1,000 favorable. They're always kind of netting each other there. Reserve expense is at, we're at 31,000 we put in, right on where we said we would be. And then overall, again, you have that, if you look at the 53, you would be $5,300 favorable. Overall, if we had the right classification on that 3,000 plus for the month. So. Overall, from an operating surplus, for April, we ended the month with 432 days of operating surplus expenses on hand. Operating surplus balance, is over $300,000 we have available if necessary. The net income there, you'll see that we had the stretch target to maintain the 5.4% that we had actual last year. I thought, based upon the forecasting, we could get to 6%. Year to date through April, we're at negative 13.4% after that credit. Looking at the forecast model, I don't see any issue with us getting back to at least 5.4% and probably more likely 6% once we get through a couple more months here. Balance evolution here, we had a spike overall to $32,000 for the month of assessment receivables. As you probably looked at the report, there was a fair amount of on there. I'm sure it'll be clear up next month. There's always usually a month lag. I would associate that with the normal seasonality we have. And then the percent assessment receivables and net income, that obviously spiked up because the revenue went down and the receivables went up, so you had both of them layering on as a double negative almost on that. The aging in days, as you can see here, that 15,000 here, that's why I'm saying this will probably go away relatively quick if historical predictors are any indicator. We're still at the 90-day mark here is still made up of I think 3 major accounts that we have at the attorney's office right now. And then aging by homeowner account, this jumped, and then everything else stayed about the same. But I'm not concerned with this. It'll adjust itself in May. Based upon the historicals. Project dashboard, as you can see, we had an overall change. What we did here is, we talked about the entrance area and the front recreation area, creating kind of almost a program structure for that, as we look at enhancements and ways for improvements. That's basically what you have running here. So I kind of broke it down in the entrance level, and you got like the front marquee signs we'll talk about in a bit. Any kind of landscape enhancements, which would be like the gatehouse area, the wing walls, and then the center island. And then you move into the recreation area, which follows the same pattern we looked at last month, which was like your sunshade and seating, your sports courts, the play area, and then miscellaneous improvements overall. And then in terms of the other items up here that we had, we'll talk about the LED sign coming up. And then the sidewalk grind and replacement. I got an email from the vendor on that, obviously with weather that's impacting everyone's schedule on a lot of this work. Looks like that will start June 11th right now. Website, as you can see here, we're still climbing here for better usage of the website. We did release the new ARB form that was out there, which better mirrors, I guess, what the actual paper form looked like and allows you the ability to upload files and whatnot. Phase 2 enhancements was kind of a bullet list of things that got taken out of the initial launch list, as well as some other items. It's with Leland IT and the vendor to kind of scope in terms of level of effort and whatnot. Anything that was supposed to be as part of launch that's now a phase 2 enhancement, we're not paying for, by the way. So they'll be doing that work on there. And we did have some new homeowners moving in who've registered for online voting, as well as their email consent. So we've picked up a few people there. So moving into committee status reports. ARB, Mike, I think you said you had really nothing significant.
Nothing significant. We do have one outstanding for Scenic Oak Court, and we'll plan to have a meeting on Monday.
Okay. And then I sent around an email late today. I don't know if everyone had this chance to see it. We had someone reach out wanting to join the ARB. Linda, thank you for showing up and coming there. So, you know, I don't know if you want to give a little background or you know, or whatnot. And feel free to, and you know that.
Okay. I have been on boards for homeowners associations in the past, and I am on boards of several organizations in Orange County. My background is in social services, and I enjoy also helping with the community that I live in.
So, and Mike, I know as chair of the ARB, I sent that
Absolutely,
to you.
yes. I read your resume and we look forward to participating.
Okay. So, I mean, from the board perspective, had questions, comments for Linda?
Yeah, do we need to motion?
Yeah, well-
I'll motion to add her to the board.
Second.
ARB.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
So we'll get you on the mailing list and all that kind of stuff. Make sure, you know, when the ARB meetings come out, you're on it. So thank you for volunteering. Appreciate that. Anything else, Mike?
That's it.
All right.
Well, actually, the only other one is outstanding. There isn't a request. Is the new construction over on Letters Edge on the empty lot. So we're still working with the folks there to get that approved.
Okay.
Or get that ready to be approved so they can resubmit.
Okay. Did we need any other kind of Larson legal support on that? Besides, I think we had the outstanding question relative, and we answered on the roof pitch. Is everything?
I don't think there's anything else outstanding. I was going to go back through Sam Carr's comments along with Larson's review, and I'll make sure everything's squared away.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mike. Nick, for social committee, I know you said you had done some research, so on the food truck options. So
yeah, I only just got reached out to them. They had a few questions and stuff regarding dates, the amount of people that would be there, the amount of whether we want entrees, desserts, snacks, all that. So I need to still get in touch with every one of you to really get the details down, because they couldn't quote or even give me a rough estimate because of the wide range of variables. Mm-hmm. So we'll have to, but yeah, they've got a lot. They've got quite a bit of variety of trucks. So it just depends on what we really want. Our budget for it, of course, they all take that into consideration, and then, you know, I can be more specific on our next meeting. You know, I just have to go back and forth with them on fine details.
We can kind of whittle that down
Mm-hmm.
in terms of different options. I mean, we'll talk about it later about, you know, we're going to send out a survey relative to some of the, when the design renderings for some of the enhancements come in. We can put that on there also. You know.
And I'll shoot an email out to everybody about just questions that they asked me, so that we can kind of formulate, you know, what's going to be the budget for the social event, you know, food type, entrees, desserts, drinks, you know, we have to figure it out. So, all right.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you, Nick. IT, I kind of spoke on the website stats. I mean, that kind of covered it. The new ARB form was released. We're waiting for an expansion of the website storage for the full document library to show up. They're all scanned in, and they're just waiting for the I guess you want to say the extension of the storage module on the Leland side with their vendor to do that. So they're aware of it, and they're working on it. So we're, you know, hopefully in the next couple days. I just put by the end of May, since it's a holiday weekend. I don't know if we're going to get much traction coming into tomorrow, Thursday, going into a long weekend. So financially, though, other than that, we're still running good with not having to pay any monthly fees for the website or anything at this point.
Yeah.
Infrastructure and access control. Going through the infrastructure, I think, like I told you guys, we had the rear pond irrigation pump. The bearings went out on that. It was, yeah, it's been repaired and reinstalled by Brightview, so we're set with that again. Now the rear pond was out. The lake fountains is going to come there. And you know, that's one of those things. It's like, okay, it was running fine until the irrigation pump was removed, but they should be two separate and distinct systems.
Oh, yeah.
So why would one, you know, where's the, I guess you want to say the, you know, who's codependent on who on that? So I've asked both of
Whack-a-mole.
Yeah, well, I've asked, you know, Bright Electric will be out on something we'll talk about here in a minute. I want all three of the subject matter experts to weigh in, because I mean, there's no reason for that fountain to go out if you take out the irrigation pump and vice versa.
They should be completely independent.
Exactly. There is absolutely no reason why they're, you know, coupled at any point.
It was cost cheap.
Yeah. Yeah, but if there is some kind of, you know, constraint point that makes them coupled together, then we need to have them separated so they're fully independent of each other.
If you have one pump running, it runs the fountain.
Yeah.
Then you tap a line off and just put a valve on it and you run the irrigation.
And I mean, going over there and looking at it, I think we should already have it and looking at it.
Yeah.
But I want their reports and then we can review it. Duke Energy is scheduled to come on site. I think we had talked about that two meetings ago, not last meeting, the meeting before, about the light fixtures moving to an LED. Right now, when we, talking to them, we have 107 light fixtures on 96 poles that were all installed between November of 1996 and June of 1999. So they are a bit dated on that, and they are halogen based. They're not LED. So talking to Duke actually before coming to the meeting today, they're going to work up proposals for 4 of the LEDs that they have, and we can take a look at that. Basically, the light fixtures would be switched out. They would replace any poles that need it, but most likely they would then paint the poles if they're in well enough shape on that, because we don't really have a need to replace the poles. We don't need new poles across. That would be in talking with them further on this, they don't charge the construction, to send the team out to do the change. And they said, when you're out or when we're out doing these, if we have any places that have dark spots, we can get them installed, put in a new post and a new light, pretty much for basically nothing, because they, if they're already out there, and we tell them ahead of time. As long as we don't want like 35 or 40 new poles, but there are some dark spots through all 3 communities as you walk that we could, take a look at and give them a list. And
Okay, that's good.
I would just say that, he did say, if you're all on one line, because all of our lamps really are one side of the street. If you put it on the other side of the street, they would have to probably charge because they've got to bore under the, the road to get to it. And no, I mean, we can cover it just on the same, because they're just going to tap the same electrical current running through.
Are they going to worry about light splash and everything? Like these things now just, they transmit light everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because right now we have 100-watt halogen in there. He said probably the best equivalent is going to be the 50-watt LED. That's what most communities use. Anything, and that runs at a 3,000 Kelvin, or is it 4,000? I think it's 4,000, and then 5,000 is when you get into commercial grade parking lot stuff like that. So he said all communities usually take the 50-watt LED at that level. So it won't have that orange look anymore.
Right.
That it has.
White light.
Warm white.
It'll be warm white. It won't have that, getting clear to blue, because it's so, that LED is, you're ramped up on the scale on that.
Yeah, the 5,000K is where you start getting that really sharp white light.
Yeah. So that. So hopefully he can turn those the proposals around, take a look, see what the final numbers all come together at for that. But it's. If you're doing the poles, that's a investment out of pocket if you wanted to bulldoze all the poles and start over. But he said if you're just doing the fixtures, that's something that would then be rolled into the bill. There's not a lot of out of pocket, and they're going to waive construction, overhead charges on that. So it'll be a non-upfront cash kind of transaction. It'll just be in the monthly bill. But they'll actually regenerate our bill based upon all these lights, and you can see the actual difference in it.
Oh, yeah, the cost you down to at least a half.
Yeah.
if not more.
Mhm.
These things should draw about 1/3.
Yeah, because he said for street lamps, the state, since they're regulated, it said that they can only charge for 350 productive hours of those the LEDs a month at 6 cents per kilowatt.
Kilowatt, right?
So he said, some of these things you can run them all day long, and we can only bill at 350 hours a month.
Mhm.
So, I mean, and they're more efficient and they're longer lasting. I mean, we do have a fair amount of repairs. I know, Mike, you're a big one putting them in when you're walking it. We just have a lot of repairs that go on with those halogens right now.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we get to that point where they're starting to fail quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That life is just dropping off on them like a rock.
Yep. Let's see, the 3-year engineering report is in process with Sam Carr and CIS, as we normally do with him. Reserve advisors will be on site June 6th. As we had talked about, we're going to have it's time for our updated reserve study, so that's in process. The entrance and recreation area, I know we've got that now in the project tracker there. We've got multiple bids across multiple items coming in, so as they come in, I won't inundate you with all of them, but as I get kind of critical mass for each one of them, then I can bundle them so they're not just all in one-off type email. So we do have the proposal from Brightview submitted we had talked about the landscaping on the inside of the walls for the facing the Apopka Island area. We can review those coming up next. I also have a slide on the playground. Working on an annual review policy to put into place, as well as get a certified playground inspector to do a compliance report. I can talk more about that when we get to that slide on that. PC Geeks to Go replaced the 2 cameras on Island Lake Court that came to end of life. So those are actually upgraded, and I think those were the oldest cameras we had in our environment, since we have kind of a rolling upgrade as the new stuff comes out. So those are working and running as expected.
Those are HD with night vision?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think they have the enhanced rate for capture.
Yeah.
So I think that just like the ones at the Circle, we've upped the capture rate on them.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
The sidewalk project, I think I mentioned, June 11th right now is tentatively the start, so we can start. I'll get the communication out there, start laying the track work, so everybody knows that that's going to be coming up. In terms of access control, I don't have any major issues. I heard from Alan, but Nick, I don't know if you heard anything from Alan. I didn't get a chance to circle up with you for.
As far as access control?
Yeah, there was
nothing that hasn't been repeated about, same old stuff that would make their life easier, more
It's
comfortable
coming.
in there. Yeah.
It's coming.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Here's the Pulte and Phillips Grove update. So, in the continuing meeting of Pulte and trying to figure out what we're going to do on what they're going to do on the south wall, they finally got some design direction here. So on the top here, you see the types of trees that have been approved by Pulte, both the sales as well as their corporate office. Japanese blueberry, magnolia, wax myrtle, sable palm, slash pine, weeping something of another, and then a viburnum hedge. So those are the type of species, and then obviously they'll mix it across all the way down the south wall. There will be whatever they plant will be more mature than what you would say the traditional sapling would be on that. So obviously it's not going to give you direct sight line buffer, but if you look at the 5 to 8 year growth plan there, you can see it basically replaces what was there. Obviously it's not the ideal solution, and some people can send me feedback. If anybody, I had a couple people give me feedback that we'll take back to them, because obviously this is their first push out there. I do know that the good thing that we got them to agree to was, instead of the landscape packages being installed as the home cell, so you may build 2 in a row and then have 3 lots and then build another one. They're going to put the whole south wall in at one time.
Oh, that's nice.
So they are laying the irrigation hopefully, they're a little behind like everybody else, but they're gonna have the irrigation cut in and ready to go, hopefully within the next week, 10 days type of thing, on that. The other thing is all these trees are gonna be managed by their HOA. So the HOA will handle the watering, it'll be on the HOA watering, and that, so it'll be considered like almost a common area tree, versus, you know, you never know if you're gonna get a homeowner who's not gonna water it or something. It'll all be with the HOA on there. So, hopefully we're making this, I mean, this is a good progress we've made. I mean, I know it's not the end of the road, we haven't seen the plantings yet, but I am hopeful that they can, you know, if we need to make some modifications or negotiate some more, that we can. But, I mean, if they put in that whole south wall at one time, that was a big one, because I know they're not gonna build out that entire wall at one time. So if they can get all that in and get their irrigation in and hook it up to their timers and valves.
It's a good selling feature for them, too.
Yeah, and I know their salespeople have said that they need something there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So. Continuing business. Proposed bylaw amendments and resolutions. So, as we talked about in the last meeting, and we had the send out, we've got 3 items that were in the bylaw amendment, which are out of the legal audit that we had Tom Slayton do on our documents last year, and then we had proposed resolutions based on the use of third-party vendors for any product and services, as well as a temporary RV boat and boat trailer parking, whereas we defined the ambiguous temporary visitation that's currently in the governing documents. So from the proposed bylaw amendments there, just to go over them quickly, proxies by board of directors. This is a state statute that really came into being years ago. So board of directors, no director can vote by proxy. You have to be in person or on a phone call. You know, there is no proxying for directors. So this is basically removing this for something that's out of compliance with what state law overrules us. Check signing. This was basically this is a hanger-on from the developer time. When Gallimore was doing this, I mean, Gallimore signed his own checks. We're too big to ever self-manage, so we'll always have a management company here. So we need to have a third party, i.e. a management company, sign our checks, which we do today on that. So that just kind of reflects the environment that we're in today, you know, on that. And then committee's term of office. It said that in the documents as they sit today, the committee members would expire every year at the annual meeting, and then you'd always have to go through the whole thing of asking everybody to want to keep serving. This essentially takes into account that our committee members will serve as long as they like until they resign or are removed from the committee, which makes a lot more sense, in my opinion. So, is there any questions? Okay. So now this one here, since Raid's not here, we don't have a notary in the house. This has to be notarized as a bylaw amendment. I'll work with Raid and get that, but we can at least approve it and do that. Yeah. So I'll make the motion then to approve the 7th Amendment to the bylaws of the Turtle Creek Homeowners Association, covering proxies by board of directors, check signing, and committee term or committee's term of office. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we'll get that, and then I'll send you a copy electronically, and then I'll send the original to Tom Slayton.
Thank you.
Yep. And then we have 2 proposed resolutions here. The first, we'll take the first one, the use of third-party vendors. There's really nothing within our documents that stated anything. I know we have a procurement policy that we approved a couple years back, laying out that. But in terms of who we use, I mean, this is 2018, so I don't feel that it's necessary, and nor do we want to, I guess you want to say, shoulder any kind of undue risk by having any, non-vetted third-parparty vendor or homeowner or board member doing any kind of service or providing any kind of product to the HOA. I mean, we laid out, you know, here's the specifications that they need to meet, what they have to do in this thing. So we should only be picking fully vetted, qualified third-party vendors to do any, you know, service or you know, provide any product to the HOA.
That's for profit though. If somebody's gonna do something at no charge, is there a problem with that? I mean, he's got a light bulb burned out. You call an electrician to come and change it?
Yeah, we do. On the front, if they're on the marquee, on there.
I'm talking about just the room light, anything.
The room light, the guard replaces it. If it's
Oh,
in
here, the clubhouse, anywhere. First of all, does this apply to Avalon?
This does not.
No, none of it, none of this does? Okay.
No. So, questions? Comments?
No. No, yeah.
Okay. So, then I'll make the motion to accept the proposed board resolution for use of third-party vendors as presented.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Now this we can execute if you just cross out Reed and just sign as VP treasurer. That's all we need. And then I'll scan this and send you the original, because I don't think Tom gets the original on resolutions. It's just the bylaw amendments. Since this is more just the board.
But I'll send it just in case he has a file.
Yeah, you can just sign somewhere. It had print name twice, just. Okay, the other item we have here deals with temporary RV, boat, and boat trailer parking. So, as we discussed before, you know, within the documents, it allows for a temporary visitation in that section, which is not really defined. So, essentially, what I think we had talked about, we went back and forth and came to a conclusion that for any RV, boat, and boat trailer, it would still apply that it would need to be parked in there, you know, someone's driveway. It wouldn't be on the street as this has, but it would be limited to, you know, 72 consecutive hours in any one calendar week, one time per calendar month, which would be essentially the temporary visitation definition that we would have. Anything subsequently after, you know, that would then be liable for, you know, management company can reach out and we can start the process from there, which, you know, we haven't really had that many issues with that.
It's just a when it comes basis, you know. It's only every once in a while.
But again, it takes away it takes away the ambiguity, because right now you would.
It's open, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I guess your temporary visitation definition and mine may be completely different.
Right.
Yeah, someone
Right.
visits for 3 months, one person visits for 2 days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So does the board monitor it, or who's
Who's
gonna
gonna
do
be
monitoring
monitoring
it?
It's monitored like the rest of the covenant violations. So it would be management company, or if the board is aware of it and they see it, you know, you reach out to Maria, and then we would either have Maria call, or you send a letter, or Tom Slayton, our attorney, sends a letter at that point.
So you'd never be able to police the 72 hours though. By the time they got to Maria, it'd be 5 days later, but she writes back to them. Could be sitting there for 10 days at least, right?
I guess potentially it could, but then at that point, you know, we know when things come in, because the guards are now, they have a new sheet where it's got, this will be put on there as an RV or boat or boat trailer. You know, and most of the time we have people bringing it in, they're cleaning their boat, taking it out, or they're bringing it in and leaving in the, you know, morning type of activity. I mean, I guess, you know, the policing of this is
Impossible.
well, I mean, but
It's no different than any other policing we have to do.
It's got a time limit on it though. That's 72 hours is a short period by the time you got to the customer, the resident.
yeah, but I mean, if somebody sees that this thing's been there for, and probably to send off the flag, it's gonna be more than 72 hours, it's gonna be like something like a week.
Right.
You know, I think the last time we had something like this, Kent made a phone call and was taken care of. So, I mean, Maria, I would, recommend we would have a phone call and follow up with a letter of some sort on that, or we have Tom Slayton send us a certified letter at that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than today. It's just temporary, and who
Yeah.
defines temporary? We don't
Well, I
police
mean,
that, right?
we're specifying now so that if it happens, then we have something that
Some
we can
guidelines,
go
some
back
rules
to.
around it, exactly.
It's more about just us being able to go back to something and say, well, it says now 72 hours.
Right.
Whereas before it was like temporary, and that's debatable, so.
Subjective, yeah.
It's more about just being specific on our side,
I have a little problem with the fact that enforcing this means ultimately reckoning the RV or the boat out with a homeowner association request. And as we've known in the past, you can't do that without proper signage. So once you approve this and someone parks it there and refuses to move it, you don't have any way of pulling it out.
Well, and that is a point, I mean, that's no different than a commercial vehicle that would sit on the side of the road or like that, you know, I mean.
We
yes,
have
and-
this today, I mean, we have
Well,
the
I
same
mean,
issue, right?
you could, in fact, if you had that, and Tom has said this before, you could put it, if you put a notice sticker up there, and you paste it to the window, let's say a truck, and we almost had to do this for it was a vehicle that had a flat tire when we were doing the road project over in Water's Edge. Even though we don't have any no towing signs up, if you monitor it and we say it's a safety issue, you can put a 24-hour tag on it and then work with the sheriff and the towing to get it pulled out at that point.
So it's a one-off.
It's a one-off.
We go through the process just like how we need to. I mean, yeah, we can't just go in and immediately remove them, and there's always a process.
Well, we've had a history with this problem. Someone in your area, a track vehicle from the Army had it, and the sheriff's department refused to come in and do anything.
Yeah,
Unless they
they
filed
can't.
it. So
Yeah, exactly.
it's just an issue that really is on the other side of the change.
And that doesn't apply to Avalon either.
Different
No,
corporations.
No, this would apply to the properties.
Oh, it would?
Yes.
Driveways in Avalon can't accommodate anything longer than a car without hanging onto the sidewalk.
No,
Plus, we have our own item in our covenants referring to this.
This was, and if you read our covenants within this article, it states it's over the properties. You know, we're not just making a resolution to handle 2 out of the 3 communities in here. If it's over all the properties, then it would be inclusive of everything within Turtle Creek. And
How did this come up?
This is just regarding, we're just basically rewording it just so it's specific, right? I mean,
you're defining what
We're-
temporary is, because
Yeah.
Raid had brought this up when he had seen, I know the individual brings his boat in probably once every other month, cleans it, has it overnight, and then takes it out. And Raid had asked the question whether or not do we have any specificity or details around boats or anything, and getting into it, we had temporary visitation. It's labeled in there, but it's subsequently not defined what temporary visitation means.
we're just specifying, nothing's really changing, but us specifying so that if we do need to do any type of enforcement on it, that we have solid ground to work from, so.
It was always the belief that when Turtle Creek was built, there was a space up where the kids play and the tennis court and all that.
Okay.
There was space up there specifically for that. Yes.
Room for that. You can park 3 cars facing the tennis court and 2
Well, it's changed
back
over the
there.
years also.
Nothing's changed up there. We haven't done new asphalt.
No,
I mean,
it's
it's
been
a
that way from day
roadway. Exactly. It's a roadway. It handles 3 cars this way, 2 cars that way.
Yeah.
Doesn't
But along
handle
the side,
RVs.
you can do the parking
But
as
it's-
you're going in
that's,
there.
that's a roadway. That's an entryway to get to those parking lots.
Well, I was
So
told
that's-
that, and that was in 1998.
Well, if you go look at it, there's no way it's gonna accommodate RVs. I mean, it just doesn't.
Oh, why all this time without it? Why make the neighborhood, the whole community look so cluttered? It's gonna start looking like hillbilly heaven with this.
Well, I mean, the situation of people with their boats really isn't changing. We're not now saying, oh, everyone comes out and has to bring their boat. We're just specifying the.
If you do, here's
yeah.
the rules. Right now, it just says temporary.
We're not allowing
That's
more,
different to
doing
everybody. We're
it's-
just putting rules around
But
it
you're
now.
talking about motorhomes, RVs, larger
Mhm.
vehicles.
And
Right, and today it says you can have them temporarily.
Mhm.
Temporary to you and me and you are all different. We're just saying, here's what
It's-
temporary means.
It's
That's all we're
essentially
doing.
solidifying the HOA's legal definition of what we interpret temporary to be. So
Exactly.
we have the ability to go to our attorney
Okay.
on a much stronger ground than today. Because you can park, I mean, you can park it out there and I bet you probably 9 out of 10 times, they're gonna pick up that what's temporary mean? It's never been
Exactly.
defined.
Exactly.
And then you're gonna have to go through a much longer court process where if it's defined, you have a much stronger case to move forward. And that's all we're doing is defining the definition of what temporary visitation really means.
In my humble opinion, you don't have a court case if you don't define temporary.
Right, I
Yeah.
agree, that's right.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what will happen.
I said 9 out of 10, I was hoping for a good judge on that.
You guys spend a lot of money.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this defines it. There's probably about 4 or 5 homes that I would say routinely have an RV or a boat or something like that for a short period of time. And this just defines it. I mean, this, I don't see an issue with this. The way it's written, it has to be parked in the driveway.
Mhm.
So there are multiple homes throughout the community, not just Adeline, that cannot support what I would say the ultra super duper
big
travel
ones.
trailer.
The motor coaches, yeah.
the Madden Cruiser.
So if they're parked on the driveway but extend into the sidewalk, then basically you can call the sheriffs and they can ticket the vehicle
Mhm.
because you can't park on the sidewalk. So there is, I would say, reasonable rules that bound the size of the vehicle, and now you've defined what temporary means. I don't see an issue with this.
Mm.
Personal.
Yes.
Is there any way for this to be extended to other things that are sitting on the roads in our community?
No,
As in.
no, this is specific to these types. It would not cover the issue we're having with the folks across
Yeah,
the
the
street from you with
utility trailer
regular
with all
trailer,
junk
like
on
a
it.
landscaping trailer or whatnot. That's,
It sits there for weeks.
yep.
And someone is going to run into the back of it soon because they don't always even have a truck
Yeah.
in front of it.
Yeah, and that's,
And,
Oh, is it that huge?
yeah.
You live
Yeah.
in Boca, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
And
yeah,
that-
I know exactly what you're talking
and that
about.
is-
Whoever has bought that home
Mhm.
seems to have multiple families going.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that one I can tell you is with the attorney, a certified cease and desist on that before we take the next step for compliance on that.
I keep praying for the letter to get there.
Yeah.
Just
It
for
actually,
somebody-
it did get there last week, it was signed for.
Really?
Yeah, so we have not heard anything back at this point. So, I mean, there is a time stipulation we have to put in there waiting for response, and I just had a call with the attorney on Monday afternoon, and we hadn't heard anything back. But I believe it got there Wednesday afternoon-ish at that mailing, so.
Well, I have my fingers crossed.
All right.
All right, so with that, there's no further board questions, concerns?
No?
I'll make the motion then to approve as presented the temporary RV, boat, and boat trailer parking resolution.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the next item we're going to dive into, we mentioned in the project summary, report, this was I had circulated this to you guys earlier, so this is kind of the snippet that I came up with kind of as a work breakdown structure.
Yeah.
So, like I said before, we're breaking this into a couple different buckets. The marquee signs, and more specific, we've got the refurbishment of the lettering, the brass lettering that's up there. It has not ever been removed since it's been put in and done anything on that. Refurbishment of that, what I call the backsplash or that marble. It's taken a beating from the irrigation. You can see the spotting on it, which will need a chemical clean and then a reseal there. And then landscaping improvements, or we'll talk about the water feature coming up, but that would be under landscaping improvements. And then relative to landscape enhancements, we've got the in the front of the guardhouse, to look at that. Do we want to put like a protocarpus or something to hide the water valve that sits there, and get rid of the 3 ties that have never really taken. And then you have the wing walls as you come in. The root balls are going to be extracted next week that are still there. There's like 6 of them. Those are going to be pulled out. We can look at that, obviously. And then the center island, where the U.S. flag is there. The arbicola, obviously you can't kill that stuff with anything. It's fine in the middle, that grows in pretty hardy. But the plants on the outside, that green, they are definitely at end of life. You can tell the spotting in them and things of that nature. It's probably time to look at pulling and replacing and do a refresh there on those. Recreation area here, the same as I went over last month on this. Just breaks it into the corresponding buckets. So we've got designs, in quotes. I think I mentioned we'll give the vendors a high-level idea. Here's what we're thinking for options. Are you throwing what you've seen executed? Come back to us with designs. We're not going to design this ourselves, and then we can. So from there, I figure if they give us designs and quotes, we can start looking at this on a monthly basis starting in June. But before then, as we get some of the bigger items in, with SurveyMonkey, we can, have a survey. So we can say this is the
We can have some numbers.
this is the this is the front. This is here's the mock-ups for X, Y, and Z. And what would you rate as 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah, we
and
can
any
have some
comments,
statistics to it.
And figure out, okay, what do people think? What's the like? What's the dislike? And from there, we can take that and do another iteration with the vendor to say, okay, make these changes, and then you can get to a better finished product.
Yeah.
On that, I think that's a better way to go about that.
Yeah,
I like that
I
we're
agree.
engaging the community as well.
Yeah. So, like I said, I won't send everything as a one-off. I'll try to bundle it as they come in, because you've got at least 4 vendors for the lettering and backsplash. You've got 5 vendors coming for the improvements on the water feature, potentially more. Sports courts, that's another big.
Yeah, it's a big project. Yeah.
And some of the things like the bike rack, that should actually.
That's kind of a one-off, right? Just do
Yeah,
it. Right?
and that one, that's what I was going to say. With that, if we purchase, we can save money. When I was talking to Hanel Property Services, if we just purchase it, they can drop ship it here, a bike rack, and they can install it. Because I think we want to get away from that bike rack we have now, that is dented and it's movable. We would probably want to cut in like a cement pad and put in a stationary.
Yeah.
Something a little bit more updated, because then you free up that parking spot.
I was just getting ready to say that's an
And then you
extra
don't have to
parking
worry,
spot.
because sometimes you
Exactly.
can't put your bike in there because you've got too many cars in there, and people are using tennis courts and whatnot, so you can have a dedicated space for the bikes.
And when I'm pulling out, I like it to be, I worry with the bikes there and the kids, right
Yeah.
there. It'd be nice if it was something.
So, that's the kind of thing we would do on that one. There's not gonna be a lot of effort spent on that, but if we can save 20-30%, have it drop shipped, and then they can just install it,
Right.
type of thing.
Yeah.
And again, with this kind of stuff, especially at the marquee sign level, when I was with the vendor, we went, we were looking at that close. It's time, and we need to make an investment. There's too many new developments coming online.
Yeah, we're gonna start to look
Yeah.
old
Yeah.
real quick.
And tired. So it's
Yeah.
time to update. It's time to look where we have the opportunity to create a signature element, which can be something that's unique in the area.
Yeah.
In the front, very much so in the front.
Right.
Driving up and down Pocket Violent, all you see are plantings, all the same plantings, the same kind of signs over and over. That's why let's entertain the thought of something else.
Well, we have the room too, right? It's-
Mhm.
We need to stand out, we need to keep
Mhm.
competitive, you know, for
I agree.
the markets, the market values and stuff.
So, all right, so I think I covered that. All right, these were, I think we talked about this last time. So these are the two options that Brightview came back with after discussion. We've got over here, the weeping red bottle brush, and this is only one wall. The project cost covers the other wall too, which I think you've got currently 3 plantings on the other wall. Those would be removed, a new one would be put in, as well as it extended all the way down past the
Oh,
tennis
okay.
court. So you'd have
Yeah,
it
it
still
should be
every 50 feet.
the whole
It
line,
would-
yeah.
You would have
It's
a.
consecutive, right?
Yeah.
It's all the way, yeah.
Yeah. So, we don't have to vote on this, tonight. If we wanted to look at another option, I'm fine that they can go back and look at it. But this is initially what they sent back, because we had said we had the, the yellow tabulia on there, which adds a pop of color that you could, have a visual element as you see it, from the street as you're passing. And then the weeping bottle brushes, I think Sue Carpenter had said.
How large do these grow? Does anyone know?
Tabebulias, big.
Yeah.
And they only bloom,
Yeah.
just, they're not bloom while you're around. They
Right.
only
Yeah,
bloom.
yeah, yeah.
And they're beautiful when they are.
It'd be nice that over the years that they would
Yeah.
go over the wall,
They will.
basically, so we could
Yeah.
see them.
And that's the whole intent is, you plant it now, and obviously you have a maturity period for everything.
So in those pictures, like, I see you have a project cost, but how many plants? How color?
I think you've got it every 50 feet on both sides of the wall. I think you had 11 on one side and like 10 on the other. And that includes the mulch that goes around them, installation, prepping, as well as the irrigation retrofit. Because this, obviously this is the wall that has nothing on it. This is the easiest one. It's a pretty easy retrofit, but they still got to tranche in the line and do the fit, put in a different controller, things of that nature, and set it. But it would be a complete, every 50 foot you would have another one. So you wouldn't have any large breaks in the action, so to speak, on that.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, cool.
I like that.
yeah,
I like color.
yeah, I mean,
I'm gonna just state that I like color.
Yeah, I like that, I like the yellow one.
yeah, because they also have I believe a purple in that too. in
Yeah.
the tab. I mean, I can have them work up something like that to compare and contrast.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
That'd be nice to see.
yeah, but that,
yeah.
I mean, that's the design intent right there.
That would look very nice.
But excuse me, I'm kind of not sure where I am on those. Where are they located?
The wall facing the Apopka Vineland.
So Apopka would be behind that. Are you?
The other side
Yeah.
is the tennis courts.
So
and,
this here is Avalon, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Avalon's on this right side of the photo.
Yeah, Avalon is over here.
Where the
and this
person's
is the
standing
exit
is the
drive right
entrance.
here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
the
you.
entrance
Yep.
to the gate and the exit.
South of the gate.
Yeah.
South of the gate?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
that picture is.
Yeah, I didn't think it was necessary to have them do one for the other side. This was more
No.
this has been bare. The other one has plantings there, which,
What does it have over there?
It's, yeah.
I'll go take a look at it.
Yeah.
that's all you need to know. What does it have over there? That tells you.
It's not very, yeah.
They have
it's
that
not
there's
stately.
that very large tree that they have behind the marquee sign, right? You're
Yes.
not referring to that one?
No. You have that one. It has all the bushing around it.
Yeah.
And then you have the same kind of bushing around. Like there's 3 of them. There's one by the
Oh,
reclaimed
okay,
water
I think I know
station,
exactly,
and then the
yes.
next, and then the next, and then
Yeah.
you got a full length from like probably the
Yeah.
beginning or right at the beginning of the tennis court all the way to the wall where
Yeah.
our other wall where
I
it
know
ends.
exactly what it
That's
is.
just all open.
It's not that.
This would now have it every 50 feet. You would have a consistent view across that.
Yeah.
Be nice.
And,
It would be nice.
and again, that's right at the irrigation level. So again, that's a very straightforward irrigation retrofit. So that's not and that's already on the timer that we have currently. So I mean, it's basically just extending the run to put in the bubblers for those.
So is there irrigation on the outside of the wall and the Apopka Vinelands side that you said we'd also have on the trees on that side? Is there irrigation?
No, we would not have any tree. We don't have enough room between where our wall is and where the sidewalk is for any kind of planting and irrigation, because the only
Oh, I
irrigation.
thought you said it was on both sides of the wall.
No. It's just on our inside.
Oh,
Are inside of it, yeah. And we had looked at that because if you look at like Parkside where they have everything on the outside, they've got a lot more real estate to deal with
Oh, yeah.
out there. But, you know, and looking at it, and, you know, we did the analysis. We have irrigation, you know, the wing wall, and then you have just a couple plantings right there, and then it's bare. We could do the run, but one, they said, you know, it's gonna be extremely expensive to go all the way down that side of the wall, as well as anything you plant is not, you're gonna have so many long-term issues because of the you know, the roots versus, you know, you've only got like less than 3 feet to deal with.
Yeah.
Well, it's way less than 3 feet.
Yeah.
It's like a foot and a half.
Yeah, it gets pretty tight. I mean, that's why we just put mulch there. You know, so it just has a neat look, and mulch goes all the way down either chute. But this would at least,
But the trees would to bring your eye up and.
well, it would provide kind of a visual effect without
Help,
having
yeah.
the
Exactly.
plant on the other side of the wall and
It'll
the
help.
headaches with that.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
At that cost, are you gonna put that out for RFPs?
On landscaping, I think we said before, we don't put these out for RFPs.
Correct.
Due to the fact that we're not gonna have a different vendor install something and then we have to deal with warranty issues. Who's, you know, different irrigation company, different this, different anything.
So who would be doing all the work on it?
Brightview.
Brightview?
Right.
You don't know if you're getting value for your dollar or not. If they say it's 40,000, you say, okay, you can do it. Doesn't seem, without getting another quote.
I mean, we can go through the process of getting another quote, but the award's still gonna go to Brightview based on what we've said before in the past on this. You know, they're doing the irrigation, they're doing the maintenance, they're doing the fertilization,
And
they're
the
doing everything.
warranty.
And they'll have the warranty on this. The second we pick somebody else to do it, now I've got a problem with trying to get warranty. I
So
mean,
what's the warranty on a tree?
warranty on a tree, I mean, on these trees here, just like the one on the other planting, I mean, they've got a 2-year warranty on them.
For like disease and probably all that
Yeah,
stuff, right?
and
If they don't
and
grow-
then-
Any sprinkle line issues, anything.
Yeah, that's all covered under what we currently have done, and then to your point, Nick, if it does get a disease, even if it's like 3-4 years, they just take it out and replant. That's within there, because they handle all the fertilization, spraying, you know, that you know, it's part of the total
Yeah.
scope and portfolio of services they provide.
That's really good. Cool.
I mean, do you know how big these trees are? Like, in other words, if you're, do you know, you said they're getting them every 50 feet.
Mhm.
You said there was 10 on one side and 11 on the other.
Yeah, I'd have to go back
So
to
with 21 trees, like, is that a good price? I mean, I'm not
Mhm.
talking about, I know it involves other parts of it, but like, how tall are these trees? And
I'll have to go back and look. It is on the actual, you know, quote. It tells you what size they are because there are different sizes. You know, this is a mid-size, so you're not having the smallest one. So that's why it's a little more, you know, price intensive on that. Obviously, we're not going to pay for a fully matured one, which would be astronomical for
Yeah.
this many trees. But if you get something on the medium scale basis, it should be growing a little fast. You know, get to where we want it, which is to provide that, to get over the wall to give that visual effect. But they do specify, like, you know, this is what how many gallons there are, and that's what's usually the root ball gallon is what they measure it on. I'd have to look though. I don't know off the top of my head. So, but all right, just want to bring you up to speed on that. We can look at it if there's any other. I think I loaned you my book.
Yes.
But if there are any other kind of species that we wanted to have them look at on this,
I'll
we
take a
can,
look.
and have them do it. But I mean, this is an initial go-round, kind of, you know, size of the bread box and what we'd be looking at. So. Good. Let's see, before we move into new business, the one thing I wanted to cover here is the LED sign.
Oh, yeah, for infrastructure, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a no-go?
I had a very, very old company that I remember working with for our old business plaza. And they did LED work, and they actually had to change it, their sign. So I think they do custom LED work. So I haven't reached out to them yet, but they've got a variety of signs. I'm pretty sure, what was the size dimensions? 2 by 3, right?
It's we never measured it, actually. Yeah.
Probably should.
I have the measurements I can send you.
But
We don't want to get into custom.
No. Well, I'm saying they do custom work,
Yeah.
but I think a 2 by 3, I haven't, like I said, I haven't even contacted them yet, but
Mhm.
I just found their, 2-3 days ago, I just found their information again. It's been like 8 years since I've seen them. But they're over in Claremont, I believe, so they're,
So there's still hope.
I have no update on it because I haven't spoken to them, but at least I found them. I'm kind of still moving forward with it, so.
But in the meantime, we didn't get anything back from Lincoln and PC Geeks to go. He's had no update on his side. I guess at this juncture, I've had Honnold Property Services, they're the ones who got the last one, to go pull and see what it'd take to get us another one. So I think, I think we replace that, do a like-for-like switch. We're on not trying to force in the LED exit gate sign, and when we feel
Right.
comfortable, we basically execute it and then remove the other one and then put that up.
Yeah.
I think that's the better way to go.
Yeah,
So they're
it's taking too long.
Yeah, we'll have a quote hopefully by end of week on that we can take a look at. So it'll be just a like-for-like swap.
Yeah, they do free quotes, so hopefully they'll come out here. I'll talk to them. Have them, or if they'll just take the measurements and they kind of can take a photo and quote us that way, then that's fine too. But yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right. As soon as I get that
I'll keep
quote,
us
I'll pass it
updated.
along. Sure, and we'll get that going.
Yep.
So we'll do a interim step on that. So see new business here. Doggy station replacements. So I was it was part of the playground thing. I was up there talking to a vendor, trying to get some quotes, and I noticed the top of the dog station over there is kind of ajar, so you can pull it back, and the whole thing's like rocking. So it's coming to end of life. I think the one in Boca Point and even the one in Water's Edge, that base is now starting to, the bottom's rusting. They're flimsy. I mean, we had those forever. So obviously it's time for a replacement on these guys. We have the 3 stations, and looking at it, we don't want the ones that you see kind of at Dr. Phillips Park, which are very conspicuous, taller ones and all that. These are, kind of like for like here. We've got a poly version, and then like we have an aluminum version. I guess with the poly version, I'm still looking at it. It's obviously cheaper than the aluminum, but I'm worried about color fade on that because
I also
those
just
things.
don't want it to
But they're
look
all,
cheap.
I know, but they're all surrounded by plants, right? So they're hidden. With,
Some of them are. I mean,
well, the one at the park it's not. Their plants
Yeah.
are lower, but the other 2 are, they're pretty high. I
Yeah,
think.
but
Don't
they have
want it
to
to
be
look
chalked
cheap,
out
that's
after a
all.
while too,
Mhm.
with the UV.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
what I'm
pretty
thinking.
chalky.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm thinking is probably we're gonna just go with the aluminum again on there. So I'll look there.
We could
and see
pressure
what we
wash
can-
those too, if we
Yeah.
ever need.
Yep.
If they ever get really dirty, they could just be pressure washed. I don't know how polyethylene does, but
Yeah, probably I think hold up, but
does
still.
it do? Yeah, does it? Yeah. Well,
So, and I guess the other thing, in looking at it, I was talking with it was Mike Connell, the one at the park, it's always on a, kind of a list this way. It was basically a cement ball they put into the ground. It was never on a pad, which you probably want these on a pad, a small
Right.
concrete pad,
Right.
and then sink this in, much like we did with the table and then the one bench over there, lift them up, put them in there. So he can do that and install those.
okay.
So, I mean, you're looking at probably, it's 300, about 300 is shipping for the polys, about 550 each for the aluminums.
Doing 3 of them, you said?
Yeah, we'll do all 3 at one time and have them footed in concrete then. I don't have the quote yet for the footing and the concrete, but when we do, we'll package it up and see what the total scope is. But it's time for these guys to get replaced before one's just laying on its side or something.
Yeah.
So. All right, playground equipment audit and policy. So at the CAI conference, there was a lot of focus on playground equipment and assumed liability by HOA or condo associations in that. And there was a whole case study that was a recent case in Las Vegas where there was a young gentleman, 13, 14, sitting on a middle swing, sitting there texting on his phone, and the top of the swing set, the bar, came down, smacked him right in the head, and basically, he's paralyzed, paraplegic for life now.
Okay.
HOA, is obviously going to get dragged into court for something like that. They never did any annual inspections. They never had a policy around it. They never invested or did any maintenance, every single one of those homeowners is now stuck with an 80,000 plus special assessment from the court ruling. So, they're saying, you really need to make a concerted effort to close the risk on this for your association and community.
Yep.
So, what I directed, Tom Slayton to do is create a playground equipment audit policy for us that we can officially adopt as a board, saying that once a year the board is going to make sure that we get an audit by a certified playground safety inspector, look at the report, any deficiencies or compliance issues will be reconciled as quickly as possible. Something to lay it out that says now the board recognizes this, we now have it as part of our annual maintenance schedule, and that closes that piece of it. For current, though, I think we need to engage someone to take a look at the playground area, because I know that we do the ADA mulch on a yearly basis. The ADA mulch on a yearly basis, that's put in to whatever the length or the depth is that's required. But we don't have it, but that's Brightview doing it as part of their contract. It's not, they're not certified playground inspection specialist people. Now
They're gonna have to get a permit, the county's gonna have to inspect it also.
On this, the county wouldn't inspect this, we would just have the certified playground inspector do this, because we're on private property.
I think as soon as you put structures in the ground, you need county approval.
Yeah.
For the approval,
Yeah.
but we're not doing
Well,
any.
the county inspection, I mean.
Yeah, we're not changing anything.
Going
Safety
forward,
audit.
Yeah, it's just to make sure
Oh,
that it's
what we
it's
have
in
now, you
compliance.
Yeah, what we have now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
thought
no,
you
no.
meant
If it was a
Sorry.
new construction, obviously, then you're gonna have to get county permitting and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
What we have now, Diane Howell is a certified playground safety inspector, and she sent over this, a compliance audit, which they do some of the parks for Orange County. They work for the city of Orlando, inspecting in a lot of HOAs. $400 for your compliance audit, which includes, your equipment inventory, description of any safety or standard violations that we need to reconcile, a recommendation to bring each up, price quoted if you want them to do
Has it ever
it.
been inspected?
I don't think so.
Okay. We need
And
to
then-
get on this like
Yeah,
ASAP.
and then
We're
photographs
gonna
of
go shut 'em
everything.
Close them all.
So we would have the initial compliance would be $400, and then after that, starting in 2019, we'd have the annual low frequency inspection.
Yeah.
High frequency stuff is usually done like at Dr. Phillips
For
Park
like
on a
playground,
monthly
like full
basis.
busy playground.
And that's why recently they had taped it off because they were out of compliance, so they just shut the whole thing down, and they had to
Yeah.
bring it back up, which we would have to do on
Mm-hmm.
ours. But
Yeah.
since we don't have that, we're a gated community, it's for homeowners and guests, you don't need to do
The
the full thing, so you do the
Yeah.
annual low frequency of 250, but I think it's something we need to get done in process as quickly as possible to, mitigate any risks that we might have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
can
It's a
we vote on
liability.
this now so
Yeah.
we can move forward? Because
Mhm.
we need to really do this.
Yeah, so we would be looking at doing the $400 for the
Yeah.
compliant audit, and then I'll have by the next meeting the actual policy we can put into place from there.
I know, Honol, I've seen them around the parks when I'm working.
Yeah.
They're out there doing
Yeah,
inspections.
yeah.
Mhm.
How much playground equipment do we have? I haven't been down there.
You've got the two swings,
Yeah.
and then you've got the
Big
top
slide
lot, the
thing.
slide, the slide, it's got a
The-
tube slide, and then you got to walk on either side. It's kind of a one-piece kind of thing that you would find at the playground.
Do they inspect the basketball courts and stuff? Like how far does this inspection go?
This would just be for the playground.
Just for playground,
I
right.
believe. I will ask though.
I mean, in case a rink falls on someone's head?
Here's
Right.
insurance, here's insurance for that.
Okay, just making sure.
So, but if that's all right with everybody, I'll make
Yeah,
the,
that's good.
Let's do that.
the motion for approval of the $400 initial compliance audit with, Honol Property Maintenance.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So I'll get that signed and then get that over to Diana, get that in process. Because I know she's working through a bunch of them now, so it's kind of, she's in the playground inspection mode.
Right, okay.
So we can get on that.
Yeah, school's getting out.
Mm-hmm.
They're busy, I see them.
Yep, so then everybody's got to, make sure that they're set. Okay, we alluded to this before, it was the front marquee signs. This is our current sign aesthetics you see there. And I know we've traded some talk back and forth, but here are a couple things, that we're looking at here, I think I mentioned our lettering and the backsplash have significant weathering effects to them that need to be, brought back. So I think for the lettering, they'll they'll basically remove all the lettering and logo, send it to the shop, they'll strip it, buff it down, and then refurbish them and then bring them back. I know that they do a chemical cleaning on the backsplash and then they reseal it. But that part of the issue too is, and you can see the staining there, and you can see staining on the other side of the wall. It's from that reclaimed water that gets used up front. That's just a killer on that stuff in terms of the weathering. But Lou, I think you had brought up, if we're looking at doing wholesale improvements and really kind of changing the look, feel, and making a signature effect, I had brought up the fountain bubbler you see there, which we can do on that top level because there's nothing there right now. You've already got piping, you've already got electric is up there on either side.
It looks like it was really built to have that, just not put in there, right? There's plenty of room up there.
Yeah, probably.
There's a lot of room in there.
Yeah, I mean, even the second level, the second tier where the annuals go in the front, I mean, there's a lot of arbicola there when you really look at it.
Yeah.
But one thing to look at that we can take a look at is you see like the LED, the backlit lighting here, like where they've got the spacer in. I mean, it gives you, like Ruby Lake is a good example. They have backlit lighting.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
Phillips Grove, you'll see they've already set it out, so it's already got the spacers in.
It's very gorgeous.
Yeah, they did a nice job.
It's very high class, yeah.
And you can get those to be color changeable now too.
Yes. Yep.
So.
And that's what I
mean for Christmas and stuff.
Yeah, but the holidays.
Well, even here on the bubbler effect, they're doing the design effect with just the regular white or the ability to change the color, because the color rings are just what changes on those. And
actually, there's a company that I did some work for down in Austin, Texas, and they are the sole provider to Disney for underwater LED lighting.
Oh,
wow,
huge!
Good contract.
Yeah.
That's a little bit.
So I've got a big in on that one.
That was a good contract.
Because I like to, whatever, I told the design, people are looking at it, we obviously want to make sure that we get the Turtle Creek logo and everything refurb and back to what it needs to be.
Yep.
These two lights on either side, they need to be flipped out to something either different, or they need to be just taken off and refurbed, and then, because they aren't LED. These two things on the bottom, they're not LED either. That's the light that shines up.
Right.
So if we don't do like a backlighting, thing, those need to be mounted on the wall, get them off the ground, and then you'd have the LEDs that could, do the splash, the light up on there.
There's a ton of those available that they're using for the big signs on the street now.
Yeah.
They've got all LED for that. Yeah, it's a lot of them.
I don't know how much, because I haven't actually been up there, but if we do this renovation stuff, it might be nicer if we get that light, the bottom bar, see the bottom bar? If we could hide that, if we still need that lighting effect on there, but we could always put it in the inside of the, do you understand what I'm saying? Kind of make it a little bit more hidden than, having lights everywhere.
Those lights were always hidden because there was always the
bushes, right?
bushes up there that started to fail, and then it overwhelmed the Turtle Creek piece of it. I mean, that's what you want to be drawing people to, is the Turtle Creek.
Right.
It was a fountain of bushes.
Yeah. So, like I said, we've got about 5 vendors involved with design and everything. Because these guys around here, there's so much development. Pulte hooked me up with their guys who do their signs. And they're in the bid.
That's good.
I'm excited for it.
Yeah, and their project manager actually previously worked with Meritage, who did Parkside. So they're I've got their vendor taking a look at it. You've got a couple other with the county register. And so we'll have more coming on this, but we're definitely going to have a fair amount of options available, which we can then put on
Plenty of room.
a survey to do that.
Have a lot of options. So.
Yeah, and then obviously once we kind of get, I guess, the upper design direction, we can see if this landscaping still makes sense, type of thing. So to me, it's really a two-phase thing.
We'll see what renders they come back with, right, and then adjust accordingly.
So, but we'll have more on that hopefully next meeting on that for sure.
Excellent.
All right, one last thing before we get to the end of or actually two things here. There was I think before the hurricane last year, we had Bright Electric come out and do an analysis of our electrical infrastructure, all the plugs, the wire, all that light, everything that runs, because we were getting ready for Christmas and the lights, make sure we didn't have any problems.
I remember that.
Yeah. Now they had provided us a quote. Basically they had 2 tiers of things here. And basically it's a replace a damaged surge arrestor, clean up and organize. They would clean up all the wiring to make sure it was all rationalized, and then they were going to lay out all the wiring like documents and then give them to us so we would at least have all, where's everything and located like that. It ended up being $1,705. We never went through on the work because it kind of fell behind, it fell off to the wayside. But this is obviously, if we're talking about doing other upgrades,
we
need to have this done too.
We need to get
Yeah, I need an electrical map of the whole thing.
Yeah, so I don't feel comfortable doing a quote that was dated September 1st of 2017 at this point. So Maria's going to reach out to Bright Electric, get this refreshed, and we'll send it back out. But I think this is going to be mandatory work to bring everything, infrastructure up.
Especially for,
But in terms of the sizing of the project, it's $1,700. And Bright Electric has handled our stuff for a long time. They've always been very good at what they've done for us. So just a heads up. And then the other item I wanted to mention was, we had talked about the survey, and we'll put together the Survey Monkey to take some of these design things. We can do the food truck, because I think we break it into here's some design elements, here's some general questions type of thing. And one of the items that I told a resident I would bring up would be the street parking issue about cars on the street. And I'm not here to say one way or another, but if the community wants to have it so there's no street parking, then we would need to have basically a community vote, 66 2/3. So before we go through that exercise again, I'm open to it. We put that on the survey. We can at least get a temperature gauge, and if it's something we pursue or not on that. I know this has come up in the past, even well before. A few times, and so. But I mean, if nobody's opposed to that, I'll make it a point to put that on the survey.
Did anybody see the story in the paper today about Avalon Park? That they eliminated on-street parking because they deemed it hazardous for fire equipment and police equipment.
Well, they're gonna have it one-sided.
Yeah.
It's got to be 22 feet wide for availability.
But it was a whole big issue in Avalon Park because a man got sick and the fire truck couldn't get through.
I was just out there yesterday. It's a mess out there.
Yeah, this is a
Well,
big
it's
story in the
bad
paper
here too,
today.
especially coming into Avalon. You got that house on the corner with all those little black cars. They park on both sides of the street, and that's legal. We let them do this. It's ridiculous.
Well, yeah, we can put that in the survey. Just ask the general community, see what the response comes.
Yeah, I mean, and the response will be nobody wants it, but then do they show up for the vote? That's going to be the key, right? So,
whatever information we get back, we move forward from there.
Right,
If a lot of people actually want to remove it, then okay, we have a basis. That's great.
Right, and
I
we
don't want
can
to go
do the
spending
vote,
money
exactly, and we can
on
do the
something that
vote
comes
and hope
back
they
negative.
show up
Yeah.
to vote what they said in the survey,
Yeah.
right? That's the
And
key,
so-
is getting them to vote on it.
This is probably a topic that'll come up every couple of years
Probably.
for a change.
Right.
But to your point, Nick, I'm not going to ramp up a
A
bylaw
voting thing,
draft
that's
and all that
right,
stuff
yeah.
without at least understanding what
Right.
do we have a critical issue that people want resolved, or are the majority of people fine as is?
Right.
Type of thing. So 'cause I think this even goes back to you, Mike. You went through this exercise with Tom Slayton at some point.
Right, but the survey probably has to be clear enough so people understand the implications.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Because if it
Make it very
does
clear.
require you
Yeah.
to paint the curves red every 2 years and have a sign every 50 feet, they may not want on-street parking, but they probably don't want the signs every 50 feet.
And the red curbs.
Right, so, I mean,
Yeah.
you have to give them the whole picture.
So, yeah, let's do the survey and
We'll
let's
look
see
into
what
it.
everybody wants. We'll do it.
Okay. let's see, was there anything else from the board?
You just can't
Nope.
pass it.
Was there anything, Maria, that we needed to sign or approve from an invoice perspective or PO or anything like that? I think we're all caught up
Yes.
on everything. I think I covered that with Bernadette.
You may not have
Correct.
to do that.
So,
The only thing would be if she sends anything today, but
yeah, I don't think so. Oh, she did actually send something today. Thank you for reminding me. And I thought we voted on this before, but let me take a look. There was actually 2 requests for waiving a soft cost on 2 accounts.
okay.
So I'm looking at the first one.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
6 o'clock almost.
Yeah, I've got the first one at 5:37 p.m. Let me see.
And then 5:57.
Yeah. So the first one is on, and these are just your basic, soft costs that we're looking at waiving on these accounts. Bernadette's is basically, yeah, this is fine. I remember this one. I thought we approved this one, but we
Yeah, I
were.
know that you did one, yeah.
Yeah, so you're looking at, soft cost of about $50 on this. So I'll make the motion to waive soft costs on account ending in 2011 of $50.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then the other one I believe is exactly the same. Actually, it's only $35.90 soft cost. So I'll make the motion to waive the soft costs in the amount of $35.90 on account ending in 1401.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so with that, I'll let them know. Okay, so, all right, thank you for that. Thank you for reminding me of that too. All right, so with that, I will open it up to the floor. Do you have any items from the homeowners who showed tonight? I take silence as a no. So if that's the case, I'll make the motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:55 p.m.
Second.
All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you.
Oh, one thing, I did want to say congratulations to you again, Mike.
Yeah, man, way
It's
to go.
a huge
Good
award
job,
in
man.
Washington.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Huge award,
Yeah.
right?
No, it was pretty cool going
Yes,
there.
thank you.
At least we can